So I can even think that right. All right, absolutely. Well, I'm grateful when she said I will spell names and put it on the table on your books. I speak 7 languages, so you can imagine me trying to speak, write your name in my language. Sarah. Sarah is spelled as S-E-R-A. Sarah, that's how we spell it. So you won't want my name or your name written the wrong way, right? Well, it's really a blessing to be here. I've never been in one state more than any other, but Grand Rapids, Michigan. I've been there so many times that I'm about to say I need a little annex for my own family to move in here. So truly a joy to be here, especially at Baker. They came alongside me and have really helped me navigate writing the book. And Annette, who's also from here, that she's really encouraged me to write the book. Many times I say, no. But 8 years later, she said, Peter, we need to write this. And finally, it's right here, complete. Well, my name is Peter Mutabazi. As I said, I speak 7 languages, so I might say something that does not mean anything. Or you might say, what did you just say? Well, you can come back later and I'll be able to explain to you. But I'm from Uganda, and my dad is from Rwanda, but born and raised in Uganda. And it's been a joy to live in the United States. I've been here for almost 20 years, and 3 years ago I became a U.S. citizen, so I can afford it. This November, someone is going to count in my yes, I won't forget about that. But I want to share with you my family, But I want to tell you maybe how I got family. So I travel the world. And I've been to 101 countries, and I always travel with people who are adapting or who are thinking of adapting. Uganda, Ethiopia, and other Asian countries. But I've never seen anyone who looked like me. They were always white, married. That's what I thought. You have to be white and you have to be married. Single, no. So I approached someone in Ethiopia. I said, it's not possible for me to be an adoptive dad. They said, no, you have to be European or American or married or single female, not single man. So I was like, okay, there's no chance for me. But when I came to the United States, I really had a high purpose there. And I really wanted to do something. But I knew at least they can allow me to be a mentor. So for me, walking into Polska, I was like, is there a way I can mentor teenagers? And the social worker made me say, hey, have you ever thought of being a foster dad? I was like, I don't think I qualify. She said, why? I said, I'm single. I didn't say the other stuff. I said, I'm single. She said, no, you can be a foster parent. Literally, I said, you have to give me something to sign so it's proof that I can come back and be a foster parent. So on Monday, that's when I signed that paper. On Thursday, I came for my class to be licensed as a foster dad. And since then, I've had 27 children. And right now, I have about 6. 6. He's why I get a phone call yesterday that there's a little girl who's related to my 2 that I have. And so they said, you have to take her because you have the other siblings. So right now, I have 5 or 6 and a half, as they say. So I'm going to introduce you to my family. So this is my family, and we have 2 dogs. I thought you must have a dog, at least 1, And the more the kids increase, I said, maybe 2 dogs. And as you can see, all my kids are white. So I thought I need something African. So those 2 dogs is Simba and Rafiki. At least 2 names that I can say, okay, that sounds like home. That sounds like Africa. So that is my family. He's my 5-year-old. He's a really nice kid and very tender. Every time I put him to bed, he always says, Dad, thank you for putting me to bed. But what he's saying, many times I didn't have someone to put me to bed. That's what he's really saying. Thank you. Sister, I was a good parent because I always took boys. And then they brought a girl and I lost all my powers. She is the head of the family. And there was no warning of what was coming. So I am learning along the way. You can see she's breaking my nails. And sometimes it happens twice a day. When the dishes are piling, I say, honey, I'm not done. Papa, just wait. She is the boss of the house. She paints my hair. She colors my hair. I have no hair. But somehow Dad has an imaginary blonde hair that he would drag. And every time I pick up from school, she always says, Papa, thank you for coming to get me from school. But what she's saying, many times no one came to get me, but you come to get me. So I'm about to get a sibling of the two, 12 months old. So sleeping normal. This is he's 18 years old. 2 years ago, I got a little phone call to take this little boy because he was edging out and had nowhere to go. So I said, 12 months I can do. And so he came 4 weeks into our home. He said, hey, I want to talk to you. And it's really serious. When at 18, 17 years old, it's serious. You always think the worst. Why did he do this time? Well, all he said, would you consider adopting me? Because I've been in 12 homes, and no one ever wanted me. All my siblings have been adopted, but me, would you consider? So he's part of our family. He's a teenager. I'm losing every year I have because of my teenager. This is Anthony. He's my adopted son. I don't know some of you with your host parents, but they have what they call respite. Respite is help a kid for a weekend as they figure out what to do. Or sometimes we are respite because other families have to travel. So I got to be arrested for this one. They said, just the weekend. He's at the hospital. Please, just the weekend. I had lost two because they had been part of the parents. So I was angry and mad and I needed to recoup. So I said, I need 3 months. So when they called me, it was Friday. So I said, I told you I need 3 months. They said, just the weekend. I said, okay, but do not tell me anything about it because I don't want to know anything because I don't want to get attached. So on Monday, they came to get me. After I signed the papers and I said, time to go, I said, oh, by the way, why is he in the foster care? And the lady said, he came in the foster care at 1 year and a half. He was adopted by this family at 4, and this family that adopted him just dropped him at the hospital and never said goodbye or gave him the reason why they did not want him anymore. So listening to that, I said, well, he's already called me dad. He is my son. So 3 years ago, he said, Anthony Mutabazi. Yeah? This is a little bit of what I want to show you. So when I'm telling you my story, I want to picture these three. These 3 little girls are from my village. That's what I look like, or that's what most kids in my village look like. So I want you to picture me that way. This is what you guys have grocery stores. We do not have. This is how we go to the grocery store. But also, this is how mom would sell potatoes in order to afford salt. You know? So if she can sell something that she's been growing, then she'll be able to buy salt. We could not buy sugar because we never needed sugar. We needed salt as kids because there was no food. In other words, you can make water and put salt and use porridge or corn to eat it. And that's why we had that. So as you listen to me, I'm really going to tell you a little bit of my journey. You know, I'll begin with chapter 1. You know, the abuse from my family was so bad. That night, I wanted to die. And I didn't know where I was going, but I wanted my life to end. But to end in the hands of another person, not my dad. So for me, running away that night at 3 in the morning, I could not go back. My dad had come home and they beat me so badly. And he was a smoker, so he said, go get me cigarettes. But as I was walking out of the house, it was raining. As you saw, those little girls, I have money and I'm going to buy cigarettes. And by the time I got my cigarettes, they are all being destroyed by the rain. So I knew I was going to get more beatings. So I thought tonight is a night that I'll choose not to come back. I had always had my chain and I always wore the money in my shorts. You know, there's a hem, so that's why I put my money, that's why I kept. So every time I went to bed, there was always little money somewhere there. And there was enough to take me for a bus. I had never been 20 miles away anywhere. And I went to the bus station and I asked the lady, which bus goes the farthest? And it wasn't like I was going to go that far. For me, I wanted to die, and he would never see my dead body. I thought him burying me was another way of saying, told you so. So I didn't want to give him that opportunity to bury me. So going far was what I was looking for. And I got on that bus, and I ran and I ran. As a 10-year-old, I thought that I had powers to move the bus. So you know when you're moving the bus, when the car is moving, I was pushing so hard. But because it was moving, I thought there was some, I was contributing to its speed. And every time it stopped, I would really push so hard that it could not stop. Because for every car that passed by, I would duck under the chair because I thought that car has my father in it. So you can imagine for 16 hours doing that. By the time I go to Kampala, my legs were swollen because I'd been pushing the bus so hard because I thought there was power in me that can make it move. So getting out of the bus was not an easy thing because I was in pain and I saw other kids there. And I figured I'll just go hang out with these kids. And quickly I realized that that's going to be my life as a street kid. Quickly, I met two. One of them is the one who said, come over here. And he said, Kuja hapa. This is why it means come over. And I had that word. Kuja means come. And I followed him. And that became my family for most of my 5 years as a street kid. The abuse on the street was different. I was abused more than 100 times than what it was at home. At home, it was one person. Yes, there was no food, but all kids didn't have food in my village. But as a street kid, you know the abuse to bear from any human being. It wasn't the bus owners that would beat us because we didn't clean well. It was the older street kids that abused us because they took advantage of us in every way shape or form. So yes, abuse was bad and difficult, but there was a sense of it wasn't as bad as at home because these people, I didn't know them. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know where they came from. And that's who I became. Home, what was home like? What was the street like? Street life, we had to move every hour because staying still was dangerous to us. We had to be productive and earn the right to be on the streets. In other words, if I can be pretending to help this part of them, then I'm useful to the people. And that became my journey every day. And where you're abused, we left under the sewer canal. Why the sewer canal? In the cities or in big cities, in third world countries, there's always a sewer that goes through. And that's where we slept. Why? Because people didn't go there because it smelled so bad that no one wanted to go there. But for us, it was safe haven for us. And that became my home. Well, how did I deal with the smell? So as street kids, we would steal diesel, So we put our shirt in the diesel tank of someone or a car and then come smell it. So we would put in our mouth because you're smelling the diesel. It helps you not smell the stench. So, but you also can get high on that. So you had both. You didn't have to smell the stench, but at the same time, you're safe in some way. It was easier to hide food or anything we got in the garbage, in the trash, where they would pile all the trash, because no one was going to go there and get it. That's why we would keep it. But we had enemies as well, who were competing with us. These were stray animals, dogs. So for us, we were more or less like human beings. That's how I was looked at. Less than a human being every day. Even sometimes if someone was kind to you, gave you food, they didn't want you to come closer, they would put it down so you can get it from there. Or sometimes they would throw it away in the garbage so you can go and grab it and get it. Because I wasn't worthy of being that close to them. But to us as well, kindness meant abuse. Anyone who was kind to us was abusive as well. So if you're kind, that was a red flag for us to say, run for your life. And that became my life. Tell me, was there any glimpse of hope any day? No. Here's what I knew how to pray. I wish God could take my life tonight, that I didn't have to see it tomorrow. Because today was hard enough and difficult enough that I didn't want to see the next day. So my prayer I learned as a kid from my home, from my father, was, I wish I don't have to see tomorrow. In my family, it was hard, I think, to watch my mother being abused. My mom got the same beatings as we got. Sometimes she got it because she was intervening for us. So if mom say, hey, the kids haven't eaten for days, is there a way you could do us a favor and give us a meal? Well, she got a beating for that. Because she was intervening for us to have something to eat. If she wanted me to go to school, but I didn't have a book, she would say, would you mind giving Peter a book so she can go to school? But she got a beating because she asked for a book for us. So for me, most of the time was the guilt. The guilt that my mother was being punished on my behalf. Or because I asked. Or because I needed something. And so for me to watch that every day, so mother, I love you so much. To watch her get all the beatings on your behalf was a tough one. We had a small little house, as big as the garage. Most of the time, that's where our mother spent most of her time with us. We were so poor that I never had a mattress all my life, except for the mattress on the floor, dirt. Me, the oldest at the beginning, and the second one at the end, so we can keep the little ones in between. And mom will join us most nights because we're all afraid of one man, our father. So to me, I didn't never wanted to leave any moment. I never wanted to dream that it's tomorrow for me. I never, ever, never looked at that. Through the kindness of a stranger, chase that for me. How did he change my life? So remember as street kids, we realized how to steal. And stealing was always following people, you know? You look at someone, you're like, okay, that one, today I'm gonna get my meal. And here's how we did. If I'm helping you and you're carrying a bunch of bananas, I take one. I didn't take two, one. Put it in the pocket. They're using me for cheap labor, so I'm gonna take it, drop it, but I have my potato. Come back, put it in the trash where it needs, where we all store. So we had a strategy. You steal bananas, I steal potatoes, you sweet potatoes. At the end of the day, we have enough. But we're smart enough to make sure that no one knew we're taking that from them. Because they were taking advantage of us. And so one day I saw this man. He was wearing a khaki and glasses. To me, anyone who has glasses, that meant you have something. Ooh, there's my target. So I followed him. He's shorter than me. I followed him. And as he bought bananas, I said, hey, can I help you? You know, we usually don't wait for you. Because if I ask you, you say no. So I will take it while you're saying, you know, I'm already on the way. Where's your cup? And then you're going to follow because I have your stuff. That's how we survive. But this man said, can you put my things down, please? I put them down, but I was waiting. They're down. No, down. And then he said, what's your name? And that really freaks me out. What's my name? You want to know you want to know a thief, little dirty boy that will never amount to anything? You want to know? All my life, this is what I had from my dad. You are garbage. You will never amount to anything. I wish you were never born so I don't have to feed you. Those dogs at our home that we see are better than you. That's what I had every day of my life. So for this man to say, hey, I want to know your name. Yeah, I was scared. There's no way you want to know this thing. Dirty, miniature home. But I told him my name is Peter, and that made me back off because that meant he's kind, he wants to know my name, but he's gonna harm me. But also he brought a memory that I didn't have. I had not had for a while. My mother called me Peter. So for him wanting to know Peter, that meant he brought memories of who my mother was. My name is Peter. Let him carry the things and put them to the car. Before I could take one, he gave something to eat and left. And I saw him the next week. He came and he stayed. He asked other street kids, where is Peter? And he knew my name. I was an garbage boy. I was a little boy with a name. Every week he would come. They always say, hey, your bajaja. Bajaja is someone who's kind to you. That's what we would say. Your bajaja is here. You're going to survive today. He's going to give you something. So they'll say, your bajaja is here. And they give you something to eat. So he paid me for 1.5 years. And one day he said, Peter, would you love to go to school? I'm not kidding. This is what I said. I said, this guy is the stupidest human being I've ever seen. Go to school? Like, what is that? But what I was saying, I'm a spirit. I am nobody. I would never amount to anything at all. All I can think is food. Who can I steal school is for human beings that have parents, that have things. That is for them, not me. So I laughed because it was like, dude. I insisted, kept asking, and I said no. But one day he changed the language. He said, if you go to school, there'll be lunch, dinner, and breakfast. So I was like, oh, there's food? And that's all I had, food. I will go for food. That's how I went to school. It's not like I was looking for anything strange, anything nice, or be somebody. There was food. That's what took me there. Food. And as we got there, it was lunchtime. I got lunch. And then I waited and there was dinner. And then I slept well. They gave me a donation where to stay. They gave me a mattress. They put me in a bank. I said, this place is weird. I am not going. So I did not even that night. I don't think I slept in the dormitory because for me to seem like, this can't be. And I stayed outside. I campfire the whole night. But it was a meal the next day. So for me, I stayed in school because there was food. That's all I was pursuing. That's all I wanted every day. But once I knew there was food, then that meant to say, okay, there are things I'm going to do that are going to make me lose the meal. That's hitting someone. Because to me, I will hit you with no blink of an eye. But then I was like, I don't need to hit this person because I need that meal. They would go to class, I would go through their stuff. What can I steal? What is good for me? And I'll steal it and put it along the way, like just hide it along the fence. Because anytime I'm going to go, I'm going to take the stuff. But then I'll get away for food. So then I waited and waited. But then I began to substitute. What would it mean? What would allow me to have more food? Going to class was one of them. They had bought me shoes. I had never worn shoes before my entire life. And it was a requirement for me to wear shoes. And I can remember what they looked like, blue star Converse. And I began to wear those because I wanted them. I began to go to class. I began to listen. And slowly, I found out I was smarter than I thought. But because the people who saw me saw the best in me that I did not see myself. My teachers, I got an F, 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 F. And they would always say, man, that's a good job. Then I get a D, they're like, wow, you're smart. And the more the positive I had, the more like, listen, if they think I'm smart or I can do it, I'm going to get a B. And then an A. Well, little did I know that now the food wasn't an issue. Now I began to dream in a little different way. This was also changing for me. Once I was at school for 4 months, he invited me to go to his home. So I had never been in a home where a father doesn't beat or shout at people. So the first day at the home, they brought meals, but for me, I wanted to be at the exit because I was looking, if they fight, I need to know where I'm going to run to. Because for me, that was the way I survived. How do I hide? And little did I know that that's the place I began to say, wait a minute, I want to be like that dad. He didn't beat, he didn't throw the food, he didn't use the bad words. He loved his kids. And everyone was happy to be at the table. So now that became a measure for me that I want to be like that. And that's what changed me, the kindness of a stranger. That went that far from just feeding me once a week, being the best in me that I never saw in myself. And so I went to high school, and then I went to university in Uganda. I went to university in England, and that's how I came to the United States. But how did I know my faith? So here's where I'm going to take you. I hated anything to do with faith because my father was a very religious man. He was Roman Catholic. He prayed every night going to bed. But after beating you to death, after calling you every name he could. So for me, religion was more like, that's my father. Anything religious is going to bring my dad. Or remind me of my dad. So I didn't want to know. But also I learned the Bible so well. Forgive even those who forgive you. So for me, I felt like, listen, this Bible thing is unfair. There are people we can forgive, but there are some who should never. That my father isn't there. Forgive even those who sin against you. To me, I'm like, this thing isn't real. Because I had held on the anger towards my dad. So remember, I have gone to school, I'm doing well. So I thought now, it's my time to pay back to my father. Not pay back in money, but I wanted to go home and break his leg. Like I wanted to harm him. That was my issue in mind. Harm my dad for the things he done. He was still beating my siblings. He was still beating my mother. So I want to go break his arm at least, something physical on him. That's what I wanted to do. But before I could go, my host parents asked me to go rescue the children in Rwanda during the genocide. So I went to Rwanda to rescue the kids. It was my first job. Remember, I speak the language, and that's why they said, it'd be really nice for you communicate with the kids, and we provide for them shelter and food. So I went. On my first day, I saw more than 2,000 dead bodies. And I knew there's no way we're gonna come back. I knew I was gonna die. I knew that was my end of life. So I told the driver, I said, I need to go to heaven. I have read the Bible, I know the Bible, but I really don't understand it well. He said, you go to church, you walk for compassion, come on, you know? I said, no, I look like one, I act like one. I don't know if he was my Lord and Savior. But also, I could not understand how human beings could kill each other that way. Like how? A million people were killed in 8 weeks. How? But as I was pointing a finger at them, I really came back to me. Remember, I've always wanted to go harm my dad. So as I was accusing people who did that, I thought, man, I am no different than them because I am capable of taking my father's life. That is where I began to realize holding on anger was going to lead me to a place I do not want to. But also, I felt like my dad was still winning because he was still ruling me with that anger. I felt like he still was holding my future. And so I talked to the driver. That's how I came to know the Lord as my Lord and Savior. Because I wanted to go to heaven. But also I said, if you let me live, I'm going to raise up the kids everywhere. And since then, I have worked for charities, I help kids. And that's why I became a foster dad. Because he done so much for me. He told me what a father ought to be. I wanted to be a dad, especially for kids who grew up or have gone through the same challenges I have. And that's what has driven my life, to truly be a voice for those that we've forgotten, or that we see that are different. Because I was that thief. To everyone else, I was a thief, nobody. To that man, I was a little boy that had a potential. He saw the best in me that I did not see myself. And changed my life. He made me known. No one knew who I was, but he gave me back my name I was called by my mom. He gave me a purpose. He gave me a place to dream. As I told you, been to 101 countries. Two people who lived under the sewer, a smelly place where nobody wanted to be. He rescued me. My time to lead group for you. Who much is giving much is required. Of all people, I feel I was being given billions of dollars. It's my time to share that gift with others. To inspire others that, hey, don't hold on your past. Whatever happened to you in your marriage, whatever happened to you in your work, whatever happened to you, whatever you be, you hold on that. It's going to ruin and take the privileges you have in the future. And how do we use it as a foundation? That's what he told me. He told me, really, I love the life of Joseph. He said, you know Joseph? I said, yes. What did he do? His brothers told him and they told him to kill him. What did he say? Why he meant for evil? God has used it for good to save lives. And that's what drives me. Made me. It's giving me a platform. I can use it to save lives. So when they called me for that whole 12 months, I was like, how am I going to do this? But knowing that he has already done that for me. I posted 27, adding one more, come on. Once you have 3, and then you have 4, there's no difference. With a 10 and 3, and I have a 3-year-old. I feel like he's a terrorist in some way. I love him. I look this way, and he's on top of the tree. I'm like, you get there. I only look this way. And it's feeling short. Feeling short. Yeah, that's if you don't know something. There are voices for men that we have a responsibility to take within our community. To convict too. I don't have to be a father for those kids. Fathers, you need to step up and take your kids. And so that's been really my journey. And I'm hoping that this book maybe would inspire others to do more, to look in their own lives and say, how can I make others known? Or how can I use my past as a way to change the life of someone else? So that's a little bit my story. Now we're going to open it to a few questions, right?
Yes, any question? I was wondering if you've ever been reunited with your parents.
Yes. So once I turned 19 after reading the book, I wanted to go back home, but I wanted to go back to inspire my mom, to let my mom know, like, I made it. But also I wanted to speak to my father. The pride. Hey, you thought I'd be nobody, but guess what? I am in high school. I speak English, you know? That's what I wanted to go do. And also, I wanted my siblings, I'm the oldest of five, so I wanted them to have the same opportunity I have. And I wanted to show them that if I can make it, they can make it too. And they have all gone through university, you know? And they're all doing well. And guess what? My family, including my mom, became a believer. And not because I went back to say, hey, you need to read the Bible. No, I think why it was, how can a stranger love my child as theirs? How? And that's how they came to know the Lord and the Lord and Savior and do well in school. And I can see that as a foster dad too. I have people who are angry that I have their kids. That black man, he has my kids. But then a few months later, they say, wow, you're a good dad. And also that I was taught the wrong way. Of all people who I thought would take my children, no one did. You did. And to see the reverse, the change, the attitude, change the heart. Because I love their kids as my own. Next question.
I'm only halfway through the book, but you remember the gentleman that they do the same?
Yes. Yes.
Did he still live?
Yes, everyone knows him as my dad. Because they took, once I started living there, once I got to be to their home, that they were safe, like I wasn't gonna rob the house, you know. Then they invited me to be part of the family. And that really changed my life because they didn't put me in the boys' quarters, but they didn't sleep in the same bed on my kids. That he began to see me as his own, you know, his own son. And everyone knows as my dad because they're the ones that spend most life with. I see them once he comes to the United States, so I said once or twice a year.
What city are you from in Uganda?
I'm from Kabale at the border of Uganda and Rwanda. Right at the border. But I grew up as a street kid in Kampala, which is 500 kilometers away from my village.
Did you go back home and talk to your father, your biological father?
Yes and no. I think for me, I wanted to see my siblings. I wanted to see my mom. Of course, he lives there. He's still married to this day, you know. But I think he was shocked on how far I went. So instead of saying I'm sorry, rather he pulled back the shame, I think, you know, that made him pull back rather than so right now, you know, from when I was 22, if I say, Dad, you don't do that, he did not do that. So he realized that, you know, I have a son that is important to me, but I was never there for him. You know, a few years ago, I mean, 12 or 15 years ago, I went to him and he said, your dad has told me what a father ought to be. Because my host parent, my dad, he said, your dad has told me what a father ought to be. And I think for me, I don't need anything from just that statement is enough to say, I was never a good dad. Yes, he's Roman Catholic, very religious, you know, but his mouth is still not good, you know. But I think he's soft in how he lives his life and around because we all grown up, we all have families, so I have softened. But also mom knows, like, I got my kids. You come after me, they'll come after you. So just calm down. Bible is still. And it's more cultural. You know, I come from a culture where men, women, children, sometimes he thinks he has the right to treat people that way. And I'm trying to change that, showing you how I am a dad to a little girl, how I treat my mom and my siblings, for them to see, when God changes us, how he loves each one of us in every way.
I heard you mention compassion. Do you work for compassion, or can you tell us something about that part?
Yeah, so the man who rescued me on the streets, he was the head of Compassion International in Canada. And so he was like my sponsor going to school. So I am part of the Compassion Board. And that's why I worked for Compassion for 15 years. So I was their spokesperson because I was able to share on how he rescued me and how he changed my life and how they can change the lives of others. So yes, it's part of my life. And I sponsor 14 kids, that I had for so long, that are in compassion and working.
What are some of the hardest things you faced as a foster dad here in the US?
The hardest thing that I faced as a foster dad. Where do I start? Where's the? I think for me the hardest part is seeing your child has trauma. There's nothing I can do to change that. But there's nothing in my power I can do to take that pain away. That is the hardest. You love them, you care for them, Like right now, my 3-year-old, to see the rage is going through, I grieve, but yet I know what he's saying, what he's feeling, where he's come from. That is the hardest part that I face. Not being able to take away the pain. The other challenge of the system is broken, but I think for me, I try to look at the human on the other side. It's Uganda, we're the most corrupt country on the planet. But if we can help kids there, we should help kids there and not let the system get in the way. The system will always be broken, but that little boy doesn't know the system. That is the challenge. The other challenge is, I think as a single dad, like it's hard for me, once they come from school, I can't go anywhere. Nowhere. Or if I go, I have to take everyone with me. So that's the challenge that I hope God one day will provide a babysitter or someone who can, but I can't. Once they're in the home, to me, you invite me anyway, it has to be between 8 and 3. Anything after that, I'm sorry, I can't show up. Because my house gets wild. So that is probably the hard part. The other hard part, I think, is I'm a black dad with white kids. So sometimes, I've been stopped about 7, 8 times by the police. When we go to the store, the people will call the police. There's a black man with kids and it doesn't seem right. So for me to be able to, in the midst of that, to stay calm and be able to have the police like, I'm their dad. But also understanding both ways. That yes, there are people who harm kids. So how do you decide? And I'm trying to change the narrative as well. That's why I've been breastfeeding a dad is not like me. Then maybe that would be normal. I went to Costco. This is common in Costco, I don't know why. You test the food, but in order to serve the kids, the parents have to always be there. And every time we go, they tell my kids, can you go give the parents? And I'm standing right there. And the kids are like, well, he's right here. What do you say? I go get another parent? I'm right here. And I'm learning how to respond to that. Teach someone who's there and say, well, it's better to ask me, are you their father? And I'll say, no. Oh, yes. So assume that I don't look like them, so I cannot be their dad is wrong. And I look at the coin sometimes and I say, had I been white and these kids were white, would you have? And they always say no, because we see those often. And so you can see how I'm trying to, even make my own journey and change the narrative of what we think of family. That's why I'm passionate and vocal about it. That we all truly be seen and be heard. But also, when it comes to family, it's not defined by what we look like, it's who we love. My daughter especially, yes, she's troublemaker. So as both parents, we work hand in hand. When they need to go somewhere, I take their kids. When I go somewhere, they take my kids. And I have 3 in my neighborhood. that we get to see. Also, we have a babysitter as well. So they're able to go to school, but they're able to really hang out with friends that they know. Where am I from? I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. Yes. Yes, accent. Not from the Midwest. And that's what people say. They look at my kids, your kids look different. You speak different. What's the whole thing around? Like, what is it? And it's good to be able to explain that.
Desire to get married.
Every night, yes. Every. When I take these to bed, I'm like, where are you? Oh, no, it's not. And that's what I've designed too. That I think it's easy to get married, but to marry someone that would really come alongside and love what you do, that's the hard one. You know, that's the hard one. And I'm truly, with all the bottom of my heart, been called to be a foster dad and an advocate for kids. And if there's nothing of that in your DNA, I don't think we can have a coffee. But yeah, sometimes I get a deal, I bring all my kids. All of them. And people are like, how? And my teenagers always like, one is right here and one is right here. What? So who are you? And my kids, I've had 27 of them. I've never had one say we wish we had a mom. Here's why. 99.9 they never had a dad. They never had a dad. So for them to have a dad, the idea that someone else is gonna come and share the dad with them, that is a hard one, especially for my teenagers. Even if the dad was there, they, she went to work and came home, but there was no relationship. But two, the other part of learning is men always took their mothers away. They always took their mothers away, and that's why mothers sometimes would choose those drug addicts or those boyfriends and choose to say that they go to both care and I'm going to run with this man. So to them, sometimes the idea of another person is going to make them take away because their mom has been taken away. Right? But I think the father is all able to go. Even behavior, I'll have kids where nobody wants. Nobody wants. This kid is trouble every day there. And once they come with me, the behavior stops. Because they never had a dad. That's who they wanted. Say it's okay. I can wrestle with you. I'm going to go home rather than get other kids. I want to go home and wrestle with dad. And that's really been enjoyed. And I want to also include, again, I come from a culture where men hear women, and that gives my dad the right to do whatever he wanted. And I want to be the voice of the other. And that's why I'm glad to be a single voice of that. Because we are told you can't be good dads. You can't be, what do you know? And someone so I can be a good dad.
You said that a couple of times. And is it still that way as far as your understanding in Uganda where the hierarchy is that way in the home?
Yes.
And in society too?
Yes. Still that way. Not as, maybe not as, I don't know how to explain. Mentally and how they treat it, they do. When I go visit, I see when every woman is sitting and the men come in, they all stand up to even sit. But it's ingrained in them. They don't know even it's part of their life. They don't know how to.
Very dull, though. How such a rough life, there has to be like trauma. It's connected to something. How did you work through that to be like where you're at today? What do you start?
Well, for me, I'm a host dad and I love using the TBR. Anyone know about TBR? Trust. Through trust, TBR, what's TBR? Trust behavior. Someone has to trust you. Kids have to trust you in order to help them overcome what they go through. The same with me. This family, I was the worst human being could think in my way. But they trusted their guts and loved me as who I was anyway. And I think using words of affirmation helped me to overcome that. Because my dad said you never amount anything, but they always say, Peter, you're gifted and you're chosen. They never say, he will always say, I wish you were born, you never born, but for them they say, Peter, you belong. So the more they use words about me, the more it helps me to overcome what I have in some way. And that helps me to really overcome all their views. I can't say I've healed all the way. I just know where they are. I know how they are. I know, but along the way, I know how to truly overcome. But also knowing that Christ loves me no matter what. He's my shield, he's my protector. It's all that I need. And in that way has helped me. And then it helps me to also see that in my kids. You know, both kids, we tend to see the rough shit, the bad thing. But for me, I don't see that. I see something different. You know, if my boys are yelling and cussing me, well, they're talking. And I want them to be hard. Because they're feeling something that they don't know how to say. And I'm a safe place to be that they can say that. So for me to be angry that I'm hearing them cussing me, no. To see it as he's talking, keep going. I can hear you. And then after he'll say, Dad, can we go have ice cream? You just call me 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I don't say that. But I say, sure. Because I know what you said is that's not fine. And that's how I advocate for them at school as well. Because teachers sometimes they don't understand my trauma that I'm able to say, when you see 1, 2, 3, 4 means he's about to flip your table. So here's what you do. And to be able to come alongside. That will be helpful. And for me as well.
A couple of questions. Have you adopted any of the children?
Yes, I've adopted after me, and I'm in the process of adopting the other. So I've adopted him, he's 16 now. I'm in the process of adopting him, he's 18, so it's his choice. I'm in the process of adopting. Okay. And so these two, we're in the process.
And I think I probably know, but how did you come up with the title?
Now I'm known, for Baker, they're genius, For me, that he made me know, like I literally was garbage. That's all I knew. People called me rubbish, garbage boy. That's all I knew people called me. No one ever called me by name. But him wanting to know my name and making sure that every time I can he mention my name, it really helped me to see myself less of a human being to a human being. So he made me known. He made my family known. My siblings have gone through school done well because he made their brother and that way they've been able to go. It's them like to Christ. Like I didn't know Christ knew me. I didn't know God really knew me. I mean, most time I'm like, if he knew, he would get me out of that garbage. Or he provides so that I don't have to. But he did through the kindness of this man. He made me known. And that's my goal in life. I want others to be known. I want the kids in the foster care. My greatest joy, my greatest desire is to work with my bio parents so they can have their kids back. Most times they feel like nobody wants them. Nobody, everyone, they're the worst human beings. For me to see them as human beings and the resource for them to have their kids back is the greatest gift I can give my kids. These I'm adopting them because they will come to the last resort. But my greatest desire is for our kids to go back home to that man, to that woman, she's known. And that's why I came out with a title, to make others known. Seen, heard, and known. Yes.
Here we are in white, affluence, Grand Rapids. What's the best thing that we can do? Certainly sponsoring compassion children, but what's the best thing we can do here?
Your kids in our community. That you have kids here in Polska that are looking for someone to love them. And here's what you can do. My kids will never go to bed hungry. My kids will always be taken care of. But here's what we miss. I am the one who is in need most of the time. So if we can remember all the foster parents and come alongside, So Thursdays is our hardest day because Thursday is when we go visit the farmers. And most time, 99.9, they don't show up. So think about, you come home, you have these kids who are hoping to see mom didn't show up. But I have one family in California that sends us a pizza every Thursday. I never have to worry about a meal. So you see how they help me. I'm dealing with kids who are going through a really difficult day, angry and just don't understand. But I don't have to worry about the meal because the meal is provided for me outside. So you see how they're helping me. The best friends I can be here. I have one gentleman that mows I. When he met me, he said, "What can I sell my? I want to sell my thing," and I go do something. I said, "What do you do?" He said, "I mow on landscape." I said, "Here's what you can do for us. If you can mow my yard twice a month, it's the greatest help you could give." But he comes every other day. Well, every to mow our yard. But then my kids, my teenagers, love him. Why? Because he told them how to sit on that thing. You know, so for them it's a joy. But he cannot miss one day because for the first time, he felt like he's really doing something that God has called him to do. When it's birthday for my kids, you know who they invite? Mr. Moman. This guy is 50 something. Yet my teenagers, their favorite part. They see how he can do that, how he's really impacting my kids. So in your community, look for one foster parent. You know, we don't like when you ask me what do you need, Peter? Well, I'm drowning. Like always think about if someone is drowning and say, "What do you need for dinner?" I am drowning. Most times that's the step we are in. But for you to get the store and say, "I'm gonna bring you milk and eggs and orange juice," without you asking me, what do I need? But to be able to say, "I'm gonna bring these at home. Can I drop them?" Greatest gift you could give to that. Babysit, you know, it's our greatest need. Even those who are married, sometimes it's impossible to find time to go on a date, just them. To know, like, hey, can I sit with your kids? Me, coffee is my drug. If you can invite me to have coffee, but don't ask me about my kids. But then just ask me about my life. That you be my therapy for just a moment. So there's so much we can do without having to involve money. But by coming alongside what we're doing and say, how can I help? How can I help? To stop post care is we have to intervene before they come to post care. If you know there's a mom struggling, how do you come alongside them and say, what can we do before DSS takes your food? And in that way, we bridge the gap. Help them. I had 100 hours to learn how to get parents. I'm the most educated human being you know. I know what to do. These moms, you got pregnant at 50, your mom was in a foster care. How do you know how to take care? How do you know? You have a king who beat you but can feed you. So when it comes to taking your children, who do you choose? That king. You see how you can come alongside and truly change the life of the world.
What inspired you to write your book?
Please say that again.
What inspired you to write your book?
What inspired me?
Yeah.
Well, having friends. I met at the airport. I was coming from, I don't know, Peru. She was coming from some. I was like, "So when did you write your book?" I'm like, what do I do? She walks with me and helps me through. I didn't even write it 8 years ago. I said, I cannot do it. But yet, 6, 7 years later, she came at the right time where she came and really helped me to do that. And I have a Baker team as well. You know, but also my kids, I felt like my kids adored me as the coolest dad ever. But I wanted to peel back and say, yes, you have a nice dad, but then he had to endure the worst good things. So then they're able to say, if dad can do it, you can do it as well. And I wanted to inspire others as well. That, hey, don't let, especially my fellow African Americans, if we stay in a place where, why? We fail to, but if we can be a place where we rejoice in spite of what we go through, to come on top of that and say, God has us and I'm going to do the best I can. Even when it feels like I'm swimming in that. But to look at that and say, how do I take it and use it to do good for me? And not let it ruin my life. I literally, my dad would have ruined my life. I did it 1 inch. And sometimes I passed. It's wouldn't get in the way. but people can learn how to draw back and use it. And that's why I wrote the book, to help others to see the trauma that I had to beat. If I can beat the trauma, no, I'm saying that everyone can, but if I can be a dad to all that, can all be dads. Can all lend a hand to someone, their neighbor, because they do lend their hand to me.